Torture and starvation. Inside the horror of being a Hamas hostage. Imagine being ripped from your life, your family, and plunged into a nightmare where every moment is a battle for survival. This is the reality faced by hostages held by Hamas, a reality shrouded in darkness and unspeakable suffering. Dalia Cusnir's heart aches for her brothers-in-law, Iair and Eitan Horn, held captive by Hamas. A chilling Hamas propaganda video surfaced, showing Iair and Eitan a stark reminder of their plight. Eitan's health is rapidly deteriorating, deprived of essential medication. The family's anguish is palpable, a desperate plea for their safe return echoing in the silence of their absence. Torture is no longer a distant concept. It's a chilling reality permeating Israeli public discourse. The stories emerging from released hostages paint a grim picture of systematic abuse and deprivation. Many hostages are reluctant to speak openly about their experiences, the trauma too deep, the scars too raw. The fear of repercussions for those still held captive silences many voices. Denial of basic healthcare is a cruel and calculated form of torture. Elia Cohen endured crude surgery without anesthesia, a barbaric act that speaks volumes about the captor's inhumanity. Alon Ohel suffered an untreated eye wound, a festering symbol of neglect and deliberate suffering. Iair Horn faces potential permanent eyesight damage, a life forever altered by his captivity. Hostages are learning to walk again, their bodies weakened and broken by prolonged confinement. The physical toll of captivity is a stark reminder of the brutality they endured. Eli Sharabi recounted suffering broken ribs from brutal beatings, a testament to the physical violence inflicted upon the hostages. These acts of violence were allegedly linked to inflammatory comments by hard-right Israeli ministers. Itamar Ben-Gvir's refusal to apologize for his remarks adds insult to injury, highlighting a disturbing lack of empathy. Sagi Dekel-Chen bears scars from Hamas interrogation, visible reminders of the torment he endured. The unwillingness of hostages to discuss specific torture incidents underscores the depth of their trauma. The fear of jeopardizing the safety of those still held captive silences many voices. Physical restraint methods are a form of torture designed to inflict pain and control. Ofer Calderon was held in a tiny cage with Yarden Bibas, a dehumanizing experience that stripped them of their dignity. Eli Sharabi described excruciating pain from restraints, a constant reminder of their powerlessness. Prophet Haggai Levine detailed various restraint methods, highlighting the calculated cruelty employed by Hamas. Starvation is perhaps the most prolific and insidious form of torture, a slow and agonizing process of deprivation. Meager rations of 200, 300 calories per day left hostages constantly hungry and weak. Hostages moaned in pain from hunger, their bodies slowly consuming themselves. The emaciated state of released hostages woke Israel up to the true horror of their captivity. Hamas provided more food to hostages slated for release, a cynical manipulation that highlights their disregard for human life. This selective treatment underscores the calculated nature of their cruelty. Boredom, isolation, and uncertainty are potent forms of psychological torture. Ofer Calderon sang songs to Yarden Bibas to maintain hope and positivity in the face of despair. Hostages formed close and protective friendships, finding solace and strength in their shared suffering. These bonds became lifelines in the darkness of captivity. Panic gripped Alon Ohel when he learned of Eli Sharabi's release without him, a stark reminder of the arbitrary nature of their fate. The uncertainty of who would be freed and when was a constant source of anxiety. Hostages talked about their families while in captivity, clinging to memories of love and connection. These conversations were a way to keep hope alive and to remind themselves of what they were fighting to return to. Not knowing the fate of loved ones is a particularly cruel form of torture. The constant worry and uncertainty about the well-being of family members added another layer of suffering to their ordeal. Hamas used ambiguity over release as a form of abuse, playing with the hostages' hopes and fears. This manipulation was designed to break their spirits and maintain control. Being told false information about family members was a particularly devastating form of psychological torment. The deliberate spread of misinformation was intended to inflict maximum pain and despair. Hostages described their experience as being buried alive, a chilling metaphor for the psychological and emotional trauma they endured. The feeling of being trapped and helpless left deep scars. Many are reluctant to start rehabilitation, while others remain captive, their hearts heavy with guilt and concern. The knowledge that their fellow hostages are still suffering prevents them from fully embracing their freedom. Iair Horn refuses to start rehabilitation until Eitan is back, his loyalty and love unwavering. His determination to wait for his brother is a testament to the strength of their bond. Offer Calderon is unable to heal until everyone is released, his empathy and compassion driving his desire for collective liberation. He understands that true healing cannot begin until all the hostages are free. The dilemma of revealing the full horror versus keeping quiet weighs heavily on the released hostages. The fear of jeopardizing the safety of those still held captive silences many voices. Eli Sharabi's intervention is a momentous event, a courageous act that breaks the silence and sheds light on the atrocities committed by Hamas. His willingness to speak out is a beacon of hope for others. There is hope that others will come forward and recount their ordeals, adding their voices to the growing chorus of condemnation. The more stories that are told, the greater the pressure on Hamas to release the remaining hostages. Iair Horn and others visited Donald Trump in Washington, seeking support and raising awareness of their plight. Their efforts to engage with world leaders are crucial in bringing attention to the hostage crisis. Trump's warning to Hamas to release the remaining hostages sends a strong message of condemnation and accountability. International pressure is essential in securing the release of the remaining captives. Iair Horn feels trapped in Gaza mentally and emotionally, even after his release. The psychological scars of captivity are deep and lasting, requiring extensive therapy and support to heal. The horrors endured by these hostages demand justice and accountability. We must never forget their suffering and must continue to fight for the release of those still held captive. Take action. Now. Demand the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas. Contact your elected officials, share this video, and donate to organizations supporting the hostages and their families. Let your voice be heard and help bring these innocent people home. Their lives depend on it.